So delighted to welcome the co-owner of Silver Jubilee Park and also a vice president of Hendon Football Club, Rob Morris. Hi, Rob. How are you doing?
Hi, Steve. Yeah, really well. Struggling with this isolation, but hey, there's worse places to be.
It's tough times for you, isn't it? Because the football's closed. There's no football. There's no kind of pro football, if you like, with Hendon and Edgware. The kids have stopped. The ground is just empty. That must be really a tough challenge for you right now.
It's incredibly tough. I mean, but in saying that, Steve, I mean, football has to take a back seat at the moment when you've got people out there who are struggling with the virus. But yeah, it's been hard. We've got no income coming in. I've just raised over £40,000 worth of credit notes. We're struggling to get money in. So yeah, it's been tough, but we've been prudent over the last few years. We've got a sinking fund in place for the pitch, and obviously we're having to eat into that. But so we're definitely going to get through this. But no, it's not been easy.
So when we do come back, when the grounds kind of properly reopen again and activities take place, it's all going to take place in a brand spanking new clubhouse. Now, people have been looking at some of their Hindon FC social media. We'll see some of the pictures that have gone out. It's incredible the work that's gone on. Talk to us about what's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much we can do at the moment because until we can get proper contractors on site, which we're hoping to get our roofing company to start on May the 11th, all being well, which is be incredible if we can. Our Tom's been self-isolating down at the club. He's done the majority of the work himself. We've had 2 or 3 helpers, maximum of 3 people on site. As part of our NSEL agreement with Brent Council, we've got a COVID-19 risk assessment in place, so everybody has to keep their social distancing. But Tom's like a machine. He's over 60 years of age, and what he's done is absolutely incredible. So yeah, he's practically gutted the place. We're ready to enter into contracts with various companies. Yeah, the roofing company comes in May the 11th, should take about 4 weeks. And then we think it will be 8 weeks of the interior being fitted out. And I think we'll then be ready to go.
So for the Hendon fan who goes there at least every other Saturday, what changes can we expect to see when we go there for the first time in September, hopefully August?
Yeah, I mean, the main change is where the bar, the office, the kitchen, the cellar is. That's all moving to the other end. So the changing rooms remain where they are. Where the existing boardroom is, that's going to become the bar, the office, the kitchen. And the whole point of doing this was, first of all, to make sure we had a roof that was insulated, because when you go there during the winter, it's freezing cold. You go there in the summer, it's baking hot. So a new roof goes on. And then we had to look at the practicalities, because although Hendon FC are obviously a big senior non-league club, we have a lot of other things that go on at SJP. And the main income that we derive down there is from education. So we will have the flexibility to divide the main hall into 3 classrooms, which will serve Stanmore College and UCFB well, and PFA UK, or a new addition, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Yeah, so we will have 3 lots of dividing walls. There'll be 5 televisions up on the walls. We will have the boardroom at the other end, where the Hendon Honours Board will go, the trophy cabinet, and there'll be various features. A lot more windows in the clubhouse as well. So if it's a nasty Tuesday night in January, it will be a much better experience for fans to come along, stay inside a warm clubhouse, but be able to see all the football. But it will be notably different. The lobby's gone, by the way, so the entrance door's gone, and there'll be new doors to each of the different areas as well. But it will look good. Brilliant.
So that's something to look forward to. And when football does start off and kick off again, talk to me about all the youth teams and then development team as well. There's so much going on the pitch when we can get back on the pitch.
Yeah, well, this time on a Saturday morning, normally we've got a pitch full of children, and here we are talking here, and there's nobody at SJP at the moment, which is a shame. Yeah, we started the youth structure when I got involved with Hendon 6 years ago. They just had the first team, and to be quite honest, they did very well just have a first team at that time. The board and all the supporters done an incredible job to keep Hendon alive. So when I was introduced, my background is obviously youth coaching, and it was absolutely imperative that we brought in a younger audience. I mean, when I got involved, I think I brought the average age down by about 20 years. So we knew for a future, and the whole point of what we're doing is to make sure Hendon is here for generations to come. So bringing in the youth section was absolutely imperative. So I spoke to Ray Fraser, who was the chairman of Springfield Football Club, who had about 6 teams at the time, who played in Silver Jubilee Park. I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. He didn't have a horse's head in the bed or anything like that, but he decided to join up with us, and that was the start of Hendon Youth. We've now got a team in every age group bar one, and our under 18s, we've got 6 under 18 teams this year, which people probably don't know. We've got an under 19s elite team we're starting with. These will be boys that will be on apprenticeships. They'll actually be paid to play, which is that's a scoop.
And who will be paying them, Rob?
Well, I thought you've got a few shekels, haven't you, Steve? But no, we've got. They're doing an apprenticeship, so as part of the apprenticeship, they get paid to do the apprenticeship. So that will help a lot, because we'll be able to attract some more elite players, which will obviously help Lee. If they're not quite of Hendon standard, we've got Edgware there as well. So it really will help. We've got a fantastic sort of structure within the youth setup, and that's as much thanks to John Creeth, who's done a tremendous amount of work. I started everything off, and it got to a point where I was just doing too much, and to be able to recruit someone like John. You don't just recruit John, you recruit his whole family, and his expertise and experience, and he's been brilliant, because people think that you just get a dad to run a team, but it doesn't work like that. We do have some method to our madness. So, I mean, we look at all sort of coaching styles and our coaching philosophy for all different age groups. We look at the very young ones. If you take them, for example, I mean, you can imagine that, first of all, as a young child, you're not used to sharing. So what you have to do, you have to make sure that your sessions are planned around with a ball per child. Also, their concentration spans aren't quite as good as some of the older children. So everything you do, every little session that you have, has to be in short little sound bites so that they don't get bored. We try and make sure that all of our sessions are game realistic, so that it is, you know, they love to play matches. Drills have gone out the window. It's very different now. So John has put in a whole structure, session plans throughout the whole of the club, all age specific, and it's paying dividends.
And all the youth team players, and I think a parent, have got season tickets for Hendon for next season, whenever that starts, just to develop the relationship between the youth sides and the first team.
I think that was a massive bonus, and a really good move, and you were certainly instrumental in that, Steve, yourself. But you know, all credit to the trust board. It's so important. We've got this youth structure, and the biggest part of the club is the youth setup. But we've still got a little bit of a disconnect between the youth and the main club, because people aren't quite understanding it. And I'd say that's as much as a criticism of me in terms of communicating as it has been the trust, you know, understanding what we've got. It's quite interesting. And we've got to look at how we're going to bring in, you know, the both sides together. Cyrus has been doing some fantastic work on this, and it is our aim to make sure we become one club. And in fact, we are a charter standard community club, which is the highest rating you can possibly get. And that's a joint application. That's both sides. So that's a lot of the work we've got to do. But the trust giving out these season tickets, that really is a fantastic gesture. It's been incredibly well received by everybody in the youth section, and I hope to see a lot more youth team players coming to Hendon matches.
And we've also got a new development team, I think, for next season. How's that going to be run?
Yeah, the development team, we had our under-23s, and when they went, that was a little bit of a sore point to many, but I'll just explain what the under-23s is about. The under-23s as a development team is very much to use players that may be trialists that Lee's bringing in. It could be players that are coming back to match fitness. It could be players that aren't getting enough match time. It's also our under-18s, our under-19s that now need to go the next step up. We want to have a look at them. But when we had it previously, Steve, I fund it by obviously paying for all of the time at SJP. And what I'd hoped was what we were subsidising the team was actually going to help the first team with budgets. So if we could find 2-3 of these players going on to play for the first team and it with the player budget, then that would be a good thing. Unfortunately, that wasn't the way that it was working. And although they were successful at a time when the club overall was sort of struggling and they did well in their league, the under-23s development league they're in wasn't really that competitive. And so we had to pull the plug because we could use those financial resources in other areas. The way the structure of the club works is that I will sit down with John Creeth and I will tell him what spaces I've got at SJP. He then consults Lee, and Lee will then, as a first team manager, will say what he requires to support the first team, because everything we do below the first team is to support the first team. Lee was very keen on having the development side. John was keen on having a development side. So that meant I had to try and find slots for them and try and find the finance to make it work. And so that's what's going to happen. They'll be playing a series of friendlies next season. But Lee is adamant that it will really help him. And I'm sure with some of the talent we've got coming through, it will.
Brilliant. So that's all in the future when hopefully we've got some football to watch. But meanwhile, the ground is and will continue to take shape. I understand that within the plans for the ground, there's kind of upgrading going on within the building that will take place in case we do get promoted next season. Is that right?
Yeah, the aim has always been for SJP to aim for National League football. To be in National League, you've got to have a Grade B status. And we are pretty compliant throughout the ground. There are some things we would need to do, but all the change rooms are compliant. The turnstiles are, the capacity for standing supporters under cover complies. We would have to have 250 seats under cover in one stand, which we don't currently have. And after 3 years, I think that has to be up to 500 seats in one stand. But the vast majority of things, we already, qualify. We're there. And so, yeah, it's so no pressure on Lee. We've done our bit, and all he has to do now is get us promoted. But that's always going to be our ambition, to try and get into National League.
Okay. So just finally, Rob, what's a week in your life looking like right now?
I thought with lockdown it'll be a lot quieter and I wouldn't be busy. I've never been so busy. Obviously, there's a lot of planning to do with the refurbishment going on. You can imagine that there's an awful lot there in terms of negotiating with the various contractors, dealing with Brent Council on various issues who have been incredibly supportive. Working with staff. We've got 60 volunteers, Steve, in the youth section alone. So it's making sure that they know what we're planning for in the future and communicating with them, keeping the youngsters amused. I mean, the young players, on WhatsApp, I've had to switch off the WhatsApp because I'm getting too many toilet roll challenges and teams made up of all sorts of objects around the houses. We've had Tony Currys and Pat Rices and Harry Kanes with all sorts of different things. So, yeah, lots going on. Also, supporting those that need it. Richard Hay and his community group, they started off okay. They're finding it difficult, as you'd expect them to, being isolated. Then we've got our over 50s group, and we're part of a local organisation which are going around dropping off food parcels, doing shopping for people. So there is a lot a lot going on at the moment.
Okay. And then just lastly, you mentioned PFA UK. Can you tell me more about the relationship with them?
Yeah, I'm constantly looking at SJP and the model that we've got, and making sure that it is viable and sustainable. And you know, we've got a great relationship with UCFB, the University at Wembley Stadium. We've got a good relationship with Stanmore College. But you know, too much income comes in from too few organisations. So I wanted to bring in another organisation to de-risk. They're one of the leaders in academy programs. So they will be coming in and delivering a BTEC in sport, and using one of our classrooms, because we will have 3 classrooms. They'll also be doing apprenticeships, which I briefly touched on before, and a whole host of other education programs. So there'll be traineeships, and traineeships is where it prepares you for work with work experience as well. And we see this being a long-term arrangement. They're very well organised. They've got lots of sites around, but we've got one of their key players coming to base himself at Silver Jubilee Park, and we've got quite an ambitious plan for the next 5 years with them. They will, using their apprenticeships, obviously bring in these elite players, which I'm excited about. But we want to make sure that the players coming in, we're not just trying to sell them a full stream of a football career. We want to look after them as individuals, and making sure that the pathways are there, both in education, and the education route would be UCFB, going to university, or employment opportunities. So, you know, we're not just looking at them and trying to sell them as footballers.
Rob, that's brilliant. So much going on, so many exciting developments to look forward to, including one day watching football again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.